South Africa is ripping the too hard label of infrastructure and energy reform and pinning it to the history books instead of its future. Bulldozers are carving new freight corridors while wind tower blades streak down highways once choked by diesel rigs. For the first time in a decade, the lights are staying on long enough for people to imagine a country that exports power, not excuses. The shock therapy started with the electricity sector's open heart surgery. Eskom's long-promised unbundling is no longer a Twitter talking point, it is a live operation. The National Transmission Company of South Africa went live in July 2024, clearing its first private trades inside 48 hours, while a standalone distribution company heads for launch in 2026. A market that ran on monopoly muscle is being rewired for competition, cost transparency, and ruthless efficiency. The payoff arrived fast. After a decade of rolling blackouts, load shedding was suspended in March 2024 as revamped coal units held their nerve and hundreds of megawatts of private solar and wind poured in behind them. Engineers know the danger of declaring victory too early, but the brief, eerie silence of diesel generators gave the nation proof that structural change beats crisis PR every time. Momentum is now racing through renewables. Roughly 15 gigawatts of large-scale green capacity is either connected or under construction, and analysts tip that figure to more than double by 2030 as private power purchase agreements eclipse old public tenders. Investors are staring at a $132 billion opportunity in utility-scale solar and wind alone, while battery storage auctions line up to stitch intermittent electrons into round-the-clock reliability. Yet electrons mean little if they can't reach factories or ports, so Pretoria has turned its reform cannon on logistics. In May 2025, the state signed off on a $51 billion guarantee to stabilize Transnet's balance sheet, giving the railway giant breathing room to fix rusting tracks and order new locomotives without sinking under legacy debt. But money without competition is a leaky bucket, which is why Transnet's network statement kicks the door open for private operators on 5 strategic corridors. Economists say freight bottlenecks have been burning at least $1 billion a day. Every private train that replaces a convoy of 4-axle trucks puts cash back in miners' pockets and greenhouse gases out of the sky. The overhaul goes deeper. Transnet Freight Rail will split into an infrastructure landlord and a rival operating company, creating space for independent haulers that can pay access fees and still undercut the incumbent. If timelines hold, new locomotives sporting private logos should be rolling by 2027, easing pressure on the battered N3 and N4 highways and slashing the 7% drop in national rail volumes since 2019. Ports are getting the same adrenaline shot. Private partners are eyeing equity stakes in Durban's Pier 2 container terminal and Cape Town's foreshore cranes, while a new transport economic regulator promises not to let monopoly rent sneak back in. Studies show that South Africa's ports rank near the bottom globally on vessel turnaround times. Even a modest jump toward the world median could rescue billions in lost agricultural and mining exports. None of this is happening in a vacuum. Komati, once a coal belt giant, is morphing into a solar and battery campus backed by nearly $500 million from the World Bank. Its residents are living the messy reality of the just energy transition, where every megawatt of clean capacity must be matched by a paycheck and a purpose for workers who kept the old grid alive. National unemployment is still an eye-watering 43%, so green infrastructure has to double as a jobs machine or risk social blowback. Policy is scrambling to keep pace. The Climate Change Act locks emissions targets into law, while the Electricity Regulation Amendment Act invents a competitive wholesale market almost from scratch. Corporates chasing export markets suddenly face European carbon border taxes, so factories are booking wind and solar PPAs years in advance, both to dodge tariffs and to brag about clean supply chains. Roads, too, are under reconstruction. The avalanche of freight that shifted from rail to trucking has created asphalt and pumped accident rates. Government engineers talk of intelligent highways embedded with vehicle-to-infrastructure sensors, but the real headline is simpler: fewer trucks, more trains, and a maintenance budget big enough to keep potholes from breeding pothole puppies. Behind the scenes, battery storage is quietly rewriting the country's risk profile. The third bid window of the Battery Energy Storage IPP program is procuring 616 megawatts across 5 substations, a down payment on the gigawatts of storage needed to level out sunset drops and midnight wind lulls. Stack that on top of grid-scale solar at Komoti and big industrial rooftop arrays from Rustenburg to Richards Bay, and the result is a power mix that can finally take a punch. Financiers once allergic to South African infrastructure now spy a bond book stuffed with green hydrogen corridors, desalination plants and data center fiber loops. Every additional basis point of confidence shaves costs off sovereign borrowing, which in turn funds more infrastructure, closing the virtuous circle politicians have been promising since Polokwane. But promises can skid off the rails. Grid access remains throttled in wind-rich Eastern and Western Cape zones, municipal debt still sucks cash out of maintenance budgets, and corruption vultures circle every tender. Reform is a relay race, not a solo sprint. If institutional memory short-circuits, the whole experiment could collapse back into blackouts and breakdowns. That is why vigilance matters as much as vision. Here at SA Unfiltered we will keep the searchlights fixed on every regulator, contractor and cabinet minister steering this trillion-rand rebuild. We will celebrate real wins, call out fake ones, and never let the noise drown the numbers.